Okay, Year 12, I'm now going to do question 2 from the assignment. So let's have a look at what question 2 is about. And you can see here, I've got the stuff here, and there is a mistake in this. That formula in part H is actually wrong. So we'll have a go at this. It's not that hard if you follow the instructions, except for part H. So I'm going over here, and I'm going to just get myself another Google Sheet. There is one part I have not been able to do. I can do it in Excel, but I can't do it in Google Sheets. So maybe one of you will be able to do that, and we'll see how we go. So if I just create a new Google Sheet, and again, you need to save these and send them to me. So I'm just going to get a blank one. And here we go. And I'm going to make my screen a bit smaller so I can see the data. And I'll move this across a little bit, and then I can see it. Okay, so open a new spreadsheet. In cell B2, enter the code random. Now we already did this, so we're going to B2. So I want B2, and I'm going to go equals, and I'm going to make this bigger now so you can see what I'm doing. So equals rand, so I'm going to get this, and I'm going 0, comma, 1. And what that's going to do is generate a random number between 0 and 1. Oops, what have I done? Oh, rand between. So now we should get one. So there, and it'll generate just a random number between 0 and 1. You'd think that you get 50% chance of each of them. So select the 20 cells B2 to U2. So I'm just going to go there. So B2 to U2. Well, I'm going to copy that because it's going to want me to paste it. So I'm going to copy that, which means you can go up there to copy. I just hit Command C. And then I'm going to click there, and I'm just going to go over here to here and shift click, and then go Command V. And what it's done is it's just given me randomly zeros and ones all the way along. All right, so I'm going to make it a bit smaller. So now what do? It wants me, so here we go, B2, this is generate down, so 20. So I've got 20 trials now, 20 trials of tossing a coin and counting up the number of times it comes up heads. So in cell W1, so I'm going over here, W1, I'm just going to type the word heads. And in cell W2, I'm just going to go, equals the sum, and I'm just going to go, how many heads did I get? Now, because 0 is a failure, it'll count that up as 0, and the number of ones will tell me how many heads. So I'm just going not U2, what was it, B2 to U2, and it's already jumped in there. So just go that. And it said there were 12 heads. Now, the thing is, because this randomly generates, every time I do something else, so if I just type 5 in there, you watch what happens, it'll change. All of a sudden there are 11. Did you see that change? Look at W2 and see what happens. I'm just going to delete that 5. I'm going to do another calculation. Now it's jumped to 12 again, because every time I do a new operation, it's going to recalculate, regenerate those random numbers. So I'm just going to get rid of this down here. I don't know what that's doing. Righto. So now what I want to do, it says select the 22 cells B2 to W2. So W22. Is that what they want? In cell W1 heads and in cell W2 code. Select B. And fill down. So I'm just going to copy B2 to W2 by using Shift. I'm going to copy that. You can see the dotted line comes up. Remember, you can use Edit and go copy. I just do Control C. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select here, which is B3, and I'm going to go all the way down to W 101. And I'm going to go shift click or shift enter. There we go. And now I'm just going to go control V or paste. And there you go. Now I've done tossing a coin 20 times and I've calculated the number of heads I've got. So there they all are in the W column, 9, 8, 11, 9, 12, 7, 10, 13. And I've done that 100 times. Now, what do I need to do? I need to, now I know that I'm doing this exactly for you, but what are we doing? We're doing a binomial experiment 100 times to generate an approximate distribution for a binomial distribution of tossing a coin or 20 things, right, and getting a head. Now, here we go. So we've done that. We're done down to E. Now, we want to calculate the average. So we're going to go to AB32. So we're just going to follow the... And now, here's an interesting thing. I've run out of columns. It doesn't go there. But if you just click there and go insert a column, and we'll go to the right, and I'll do that again because I'm going to need a few more. Insert a column, and I'll go to the right again. You can just go Command Y now, and it just keeps inserting them. There you go, that should be enough. I'm pretty sure that AG will be enough. So it says in AB32, so I go down here to AB32, and I'm just going to go in here. In AB32, enter equals average. Oh, there we go. Average. And I want, look here, AB32, W2 to W101. So W2 colon W101. And bang. And it's calculated. So I don't want to call that average. I'm going to call that the mean. Now it wants me to calculate the standard deviation, and we want the population standard deviation. You watch as we type this in, equals, and we're going to go I'm going to use capitals, stand, and you can see these coming up, standard deviation, but we want standard dot T, entire population. And again, I want W2 W101. And that's a standard deviation. So I'm just going to go below here. I want to label it. And I'm going to just make this a bit bigger so I can see it. All right. Now, remember, we need to compare them. So we want to compare this with what our theoretical will happen. So that's what we've got from the experimental data. Theoretically, the mean, the expected value, should equal, well, how many are we doing? 20. We're doing 20 of these times the probability, 0.5. So we should get 10. Oh, we get 9.72. And our standard deviation now, standard deviation is given by the formula, the square root, and you'll see here this textbook uses MPQ, but remember MPQ is just so here, I'm just going to type in here in this mean equals UP, NP, U equals NP. And the formula for the standard deviation is, now I haven't got the symbol, so I'm just going to go right, square root of MPQ. So our standard deviation, so I'm going to type in here, equals square root. Now, when I type that in, there it is, square root, there, of n, 20, times, well, what's p? Oh, 0.5. What's 1 minus p? 0.5. And there we go. And now we can see it. So I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger. Okay. And you can see they're very similar. Now watch what happens here. Every time I type in a new number, you watch in AB32 and AB33, what happens when I type in here, I press that, and it changes. Because every time I do a new thing, it recalculates. All those random numbers have recalculated. Oh, so let's go 20. There it goes to 10.32. So what they say here, in the next bit, press calculate now. In Excel, not on Google Sheets, I can do this, but I haven't been able to find the thing that says calculate now in Sheets. If you can find it, and I suppose you could use these functions to do it, but all you have to do is just type in another number, I don't know, 25, enter, and it changes because it's going to recalculate every time. It's updating every time you do something new. So don't worry if things are changing as you're doing them. It doesn't matter. Righto, so now we're going from Z. So we have to go up here. And we're going to Z, and we're going to Z1. And in here we're writing number of heads. Now, the reason I don't mind doing this with you and doing exactly the same thing is you're going to get different numbers because your random variables are going to be different to mine. So no one's going to have exactly the same as anybody else in the class. So number of heads, I'm going to go 0. Now to get the next number, I'm going to go equals that, oops, I went too far, that one plus 1. That's going to give me 1. Now in here, I'm going to write F underscore R, and that's going to calculate the frequency. Now this is where it's a little bit different. So you go equals count, oops, count if, and you go there, it's going to give me a bracket, and I have to use the strings again. So string W, string 2, a capital W, I don't think it makes any difference, colon, string W, string 101. So what it's going to do is it's going to go and it's going to count if, or how many, all the way from 102, W2 to 101, how many they got there. And I'm going to go comma, string Z, string 2. And then I'm going to close the bracket. Notice here, down here in the formula that they've got, they divide by 100, then close the bracket. You have to close the bracket, then divide by 100. And what that's going to give us is the number of 0 heads. So count the number of heads are equal to 0. So how many of the answers from W2 to W101 equal 0? How many times did you get 0 heads? And then they're going to put that out of 100 because there are 100 trials. And now it's asking me to do autofill. I'm going to accept that. There's only one. And you'll notice there, that there were no times when I tossed or did the random experiment of tossing a coin 20 times, did I get 0 heads? There was no time when I did it when I got 1 head. And I could keep trying and seeing what's happening. So over here now, I'm going to get the cumulative frequency. So CF underscore R. Now remember the cumulative frequency, and remember now we're talking about a probability density function and a cumulative probability density function, and you should be able to see where this is all going, but we'll just see how we go. So this is the first one, which is just the first frequency, no worries. I don't want to fill down this time because the next one I'm going to go equals, and it's this cell plus this cell. Oops, not that one. This one. All right, now you can see that the cumulative frequency is 0 because the first two are 0. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click there, I'm going to click here, I'm going to copy, then I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go all the way down to AB22. All right, so AB22. So there, I go down to AB22, and I'm going to go Command V. Now, why haven't I got numbers there? That's confusing me. Did I get all my W's? Yeah, they're right. This happened to me when I did it previously. Have I got it all right in here? Z2, that should be, that's why. I'm sorry, I've made a mistake. There should not be another string there. All right, that should just be Z2. That was my mistake. So this should now be Z. This one should not have that there. So yes, so it's very important. That should have a string, and this should be Z3. I'm just going to fix that up. So now I'm just going to copy this column, and I'll go down here, and it should change. I'll go down to here and paste that. And now I get my numbers in, righto? So as you can see, I shouldn't have had that extra string in there because each of these are comparing them to these ones. So this one compares it to Z2, this one compares it to Z3. So this is saying, how many times did you get 0 heads? None. How many times did you get 1 head? None. How many times did you get 2 heads? None. How many times did you get 3? None. How many times did you get 4? None. How many times did you get 5 heads when you tossed the coin 20 times? And now remember, it's out of 100, so you can see there that's 2 out of 100. 0.2, 0.02. There's 2 out of 100. There's 12 out of 100. So 7 times come up. That's 6 out of 100. That's 21 out of 100. That's 12 out of 100, and so on. And you know that your cumulative frequency should eventually add up to 1. So there we go. We've got here a probability density table and a cumulative frequency density function. So what have we done here? So what are we going to get? Well, now we're going to have to create a histogram, and we're going to have to create a cumulative frequency histogram. So this is hard, and they talk about here, be careful to adjust the gap between the bars so it's a histogram. I can do this on Excel. I cannot do it on Google Sheets, so I'm not going to worry about it if you can't do it on Google Sheets. So what I'm going to do, the first one's really easy. What I want is I want this one and this FR column. That's my frequency column. So I'm just going to go Shift and click, and I'm going to insert a chart. You'd hope it'd choose the right chart for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go full screen on this so we can see it now. It didn't choose the right chart. It chose a line chart. I don't want a combo. I just want a column chart. So here we go. And as you can see, what they're talking about is the gaps in here. Now you might be able to find a way to get rid of those gaps. I'm not going to take marks off you for finding those gaps. Let's tidy this chart up. So let's go into the axes and titles. And what is this, a title? So remember, I'm in Customize. Well, I've got a frequency histogram. So I'm going to call that a frequency histogram. And I'm going to put that in the middle. There we go. Let's fix up the vertical axis. And the vertical axis, they've got FR, which is what it is, but we know that that's the probability. And it's the experimental probability, but I'm just going to write probability because we're going to put some other information in here in a moment. And there we go. That's all I want you to do for your frequency histogram. Let's get rid of that. And now I'm going to make this smaller. I'm going to move this chart. Just going to drag it over to here. I need to get some more columns in here, so I'll just insert columns to give me more space so it gets off that. So insert column to the right, and let's do that a couple of times. So I'll have to do that again. Insert columns to the right. And now I'll do that a couple of times. There we go. And you can see every time I did that, the frequency histogram changed because the data is always changing. So there's my frequency histogram. And it's labeled and it's pretty clear. Now, if I go back here, what does it want me to do next? It wants me to add a second graph on a separate axis using the cumulative frequency. Now, this is hard. So this is going to take a little bit. So what I want to do, there's probably an easier way to do this, but I'm just going to go here and shift. And I'm going to go insert a chart. I know I have only selected one bit of data, but I don't know how to do this otherwise. So insert a chart. And it's giving me a line, and that's obvious because it's just a straight line. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this chart, and I'm going to go to my series. So I'm going to customize series. And what I want to do is I want to, it's not in series, it's add a data point. Add, I think I have to go control. Let's get rid of this. And I'll just move it again. I don't want it there because it's over my mean, so I'm just going to move it over here. There we go. And what I want to do, if I go control click in there, I should be able to get edit chart, and I should be able to, here we go, series. All right, so let's do that again so you can see it. So just get out of there. If I click on this and I go control click and I edit the chart, I get this and I get this series, and I want to add another series. I want to get that other bit in there. So I'm just going to click on this little data range, and the second series I want is a cumulative frequency. So I'm just going to click there and shift click here. I'm going to go OK. And now I've got the two bits of data, but it's in a line graph. So I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to go, what do you want? I want column. Why have I got, that's not what I wanted. Hold on, I'm just going to make sure I can do this. I've got this on the other one. Let's remove that one. Oh, data range. That's what I wanted. My data range. Yeah, that should be right. It's okay. Right, that should be right. There's my cumulative frequency histogram. So ZZ, series ZZ2. All right, so let's now customize charts and titles. What is it? Vertical axis. Chart title. It's a cumulative. I still don't think it's right. I think I've done something wrong. Cumulative frequency. Let's go vertical axis. Right, so my vertical axis, see, I've got the number of heads on the vertical axis, whereas I want the frequency, I want the other one on the vertical axis. So I'm going to have to fix that up. So vertical axis from source data. Vertical axis should be. Tell you what, I'm going to do this all again. Let's delete this whole thing. Come on, let me delete it. Right, so let's try it again. So I want this and this, and I'm going to insert a chart. Good. I'm going to add a series, and I'm going to go here. Now that thing's in the way. AB22. And I want what sort of chart do I want? I want a column. It's give me that. It's still giving me the wrong one. I'm just going to check. I've done it on my other computer, and I just need to check. I need the number of heads on that. So if I just go edit chart. I want this to be AB22. So let's go here to AB22. And I don't want to use column Z, I want to use Z as labels. So I'm going to add a series. I'm going to add that one. And I'm going to use, why is it not doing, remove that. So that's it's got it there. Let me click on this and move it so I can see what I'm doing. And move it across here. So you can see it's a cumulative frequency, but I just haven't got my labels on my x-axis. And you can see it goes up to 1. So let's just get the axes and titles done. So the vertical axis, and I want the chart title, and I want this to be cumulative frequency. And I want horizontal axis is the number of heads. And that's what I've got to get on that. And the vertical axis is the cumulative probability. Right. And now I need to get my x. So what have I done? I need, in setup, horizontal link, my x-axis, add my x-axis. So here I go, there it is. Oh, so if I just go to setup and I go to my x-axis, my series, that's the data, AB22, and my x-axis is Z2 to Z22, and you can see the number of heads now, and now it looks really cool. And there's my cumulative frequency histogram. I might just change that. So I go into customize, axes and titles. I want my chart title, and I want this to be cumulative frequency histogram, and I want it in the middle. Done. And there we go. And there's my cumulative. And every time I do something, this will change ever so slightly. So if I go up here, I'll just type 20 in there. And you can see everything changed because every time it's recalculating. So I'm just going to move this a little bit again so I can see that. There we go. So we're almost done now. What else is there to do? So what we need to do is add the theoretical normal distribution to these results as a comparison. Well, how do we calculate the normal distribution? Well, we use a binomial distribution. So we're just going to have to move this a little bit over. And now what I'm going to do, I go back here, what are my titles? I'm going to have theoretical FR and theoretical C of R. So here I'm going to go theoretical, and that's F underscore R. So that's a theoretical frequency. What should we be getting? And then we have the cumulative, the theoretical, theoretical C underscore C underscore F. How did they write it? I want to use exactly the same things. CF, yep. So let's go back in there. CF underscore R. Right. So how do we do this? It's okay because Excel's going to do it for us, or Google Sheets is going to do it for us. What do we type in? Binomial distribution Z for 20 trials where P, success, is 0.5, else false. We don't care. So equals, equals binomial distribution probability. Well, that's what we want. Double check, make sure it's right. Binomial distribution, good. And now what are we doing? Z2. Z2. We don't have to do a string because I'm just going to make this bigger so you can see. Binomial distribution, Z2. Let's make that a capital Z. It doesn't make any difference. So you can see it's referenced that cell, comma. I'm pretty sure it's 20, comma, 20, comma, 0.5, comma, false. So let's just get that out of there. 0.20, comma, 0.5, comma, false. Close that bracket. Do you want to auto fill down? Thank you very much. Of course I do. And what it's done is calculate the theoretical probability of getting 0 heads when I toss a coin 20 times. And it should be almost 0. I'm just going to double check because I've got it on my other computer and I want to double check that the answers are the same. And indeed they are. Now, the cumulative frequency, well, that's easy. Equals that, done. It's asking me to autofill, not this time, thank you. This time, I go equals this cell plus this cell. Sorry, get out of there, click the wrong one. This one, turn. And now I copy that cell, Control C or Command C, go there, all the way down to here, Shift and Command V. And you can see that the cumulative frequency eventually adds up to 1. And you can see over here, in our experiment, it added up to 1 after 16, because even though the theoretical probability of these is viable, it doesn't happen when we do a random experiment, not 20 times. So it runs out pretty quick. So now, what do we have to do? Well, let's just make this a bit smaller so you can see it all now. Look at what we've done. We've done a random experiment. We've done it 100 times. We've tossed 20 coins, or a coin 20 times, counted the number of heads, found that out. It's all here. We've done that experiment 100 times. We've calculated or got the theoretical data from that, and every time we recalibrate, these numbers change. We've calculated the theoretical. These numbers will not change. All right? So now we want to graph them. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over to here. We're going to here. We're going to edit this chart. And we're going to go to add a series. So in here, in setup, all right, in the data range, in the chart, we're going to add a series. So what we're going to do, go in here, and we're going to go click. This time, we want this theoretical. We want to see how that matches up. Okay. And you can see it puts it in there. And that's the graph we should be getting. That's the theoretical probability of tossing a coin 20 times, how many heads you should get up. Now, we've done that experiment 100 times. If we did it 1,000 times, we might get a graph that's very similar. As you can see there, look at the number 8 in mine. And by the way, your data is going to be different. Getting 8 heads came up a lot more. The same with getting 12 heads and 15 heads. So you can see the comparison quite quickly. Now what are we doing? Okay, we're going to go to this one. And we're going to, again, so I'm going to click in there, edit chart. It's already there. And I'm going to add a series this time. And this time I'm going to add, well, what would the theoretical cumulative frequency equal? And I go, okay. I didn't want it as a line. Why is it giving it to me as a line? Because it's in a combo chart. Let's get out of that and let's just go column, and there it is. So, and you can see that as we get towards the end, it smooths out, it becomes very similar. Now, every time I recalibrate, so you won't see it very clearly on the cumulative frequency histogram, but you will see it on the frequency. So just watch this. I'm just going to type 2 in there and watch what happens to the blue lines in my frequency histogram. Oh, let's do another one. Oh, let's do another one. Oh, and another one. Well, and another one. Ooh, pretty similar there, but still different. And you can see that it's changing every time. So let's go back and see what the questions ask. We investigate the accuracy of a normal approximation to a sample population for various sample sizes. Sorry, that's question 3. What are we doing here? We simulate tossing a coin 20 times, the binomial experiments 100 times, generating data for the binomial distribution of tossing a coin 20 times of 0.5 an event. So have we finished there? Add a second graph on a separate axis cumulative. We want to add the theoretical norms distribution to these comparisons. Add the following series. Done. Again, doing all that. Recalculate a few times and notice how good the agreement of the experiment and theoretical graphs is. This is particularly true for the cumulative. So you don't actually have to answer a lot of questions, but what I want you to do is experiment with it and see how you go. All right? And what I want to see in your spreadsheet is this. And if you just go over here, you create a couple of extra spots, you can then recalibrate that experiment. And you could imagine if we did it for more than 100 times, if we did it, say, for 200 or 1,000, and using a spreadsheet is a good way to do it. Please make sure your graphs are clearly labeled. That's not hard to do. Please make sure your graphs, I'm not worried about the gaps. I was able to do it on Excel, but I wasn't able. Make sure I can see these things, the mean and the standard deviation and the theoretical. So this is, actually I'm going to put in there, this is the experimental, and this is the theoretical. All right? Oh, look at that, I spelled theoretical incorrectly up here. No, let's just fix it up. All right. Is that right? Does it have an E in it? Let me just check here. Oh, I was right. There we go. Always double check the spelling. Theoretical. Okay, so you should be right with that now. Remember, save your Google Sheets, send it to me. This is the one that you can't compare except for the theoretical data. You can't compare except for the theoretical data. And you should be right. The only problem in it, remember, down here, that formula is wrong in H. And then we'll do 3 in class. Good luck.